earliest and best documented evidence of early agriculture and domestication came from the site of Mehargarh, which is located in Bolan Valley in the northern part of Kachi Plains in Baluchistan. This valley is an important route from Indus Plains to valleys of North Baluchistan and then to Central Asia. Animals and humans must have moved along this route from very early times. Excavations at Mehargarh revealed an area of around 200 hectares on a low mound. 7 occupational levels have been discovered, which shows striking evidence of continuous occupation and cultural continuity. In today's video, we are going to understand the precise significance of the site of Mehargarh in Indian history. So this video will be divided into 4 small parts. In the first part, we will talk about the discovery of this site. In second part, we will understand the changes from period 1 to period 7 in all aspects of life. Then we will discuss the significance of Mehargarh, and lastly we will discuss about the decline of this site. So let's start the video. The first thing is the discovery. In 1968, Sardar Ghosh Bakhsh Rai Sini, a Pakistani politician, drew the attention of archaeologists at a mound near his residence on the bank of Bolan River. Following up his lead, a French archaeological mission under Jean-Francisco Jarrig and his wife Catherine Jarrig, in collaboration with the Pakistan Archaeological Department, started to excavate the site of Mehargarh in 1974. They continued the excavation for more than a decade, and the result shocked the archaeologists and provided an important chronological framework to understand the beginning of agriculture in Indian subcontinent. So there are a total 7 periods which ranges from 7000 BCE to 3800 BCE. So let's discuss about these 7 periods in detail. The first period, which belongs around 7000 BCE to 5000 BCE, this is further divided into 2 parts, A and B. In this period, people were living in the houses made of handmade mud bricks with small rectangular rooms. One room at the lowest level of period 1 had a grinding stone in this, which was used to grind probably wild or maybe early domesticated cereals. In other words, a grinding stone shows food processing. The bricks that were used were of a standard size with distinctive rounded ends and finger impressions on the surface. Some of the structures were divided into small compartments, may have been storage units of grain. If we talk about tools, then period 1 has thousands of microliths, and most of them were based on blades. Very few Neolithic hand axes were found. There were few perforated discs and spatula. Some bone tools, including needles, were also found. Female figurines are an important aspect of Mehargarh. From the earliest level, we found a handmade female figurine made of unbaked clay. Period 1 was basically a ceramic, which means there were no pottery at all. The next important aspect is burial. In period 1, people buried their dead in open spaces between their houses. Their bodies were placed in an oval pit in flexed position. Their bones were often covered with red ochre powder, suggesting some sort of fertility belief. In 2 burials, young goat has been placed near the feet of the body. Grave goods include basket, bone pendant, shell beads, necklace, and food items. A copper bead was also found in these burials. Two types of beads are very important for us to understand: lapis and shell beads. The nearest source for lapis is Afghanistan, while the nearest source of shell is Makran Coast in Pakistan, which is nearly 500 km away. So this suggested that the people of Mehargarh were engaged in some sort of long distance exchange, probably via barter system. There were changes in burial within the second part of first period, a graveyard with 150 burials covering an area of 200 square meters. These burials were more elaborated than before, and this is the first evidence of niche burial. A few copper beads have been found in these burials, and there are some instances of double burial and secondary burial where bones of one or more people were collected and buried after exposing to the elements of nature. What actually was the reason behind such elaborate burial practices is uncertain and a matter of debate among historians. One of the most important discoveries is so-called craftsman's grave, in which a man was buried with a polished Neolithic hand axe, 3 flint cores, 9 geometric flints, microliths, and 16 blades. Going to period 2, which is roughly around 6000 BCE to 4500 BCE, it is further divided into 3 sub-phases A, B, and C. In this period, settlement was increasing, and the structures were divided into small cell-like compartments which were definitely storage units. For example, double row of small rooms with passage between them and barley seeds on the floor. They must have been grain stores. These tools of period 1 continued. The tool of period 1 continued, but a new tool, sickle to harvest grain, were found. This is the earliest evidence of a harvesting tool in entire South Asia. Microwear analysis of tool, which study the tools to understand the use of the tools, was done by P. Vaughan. He concluded that most of these tools were connected with working of animal products like meat chopping, cooking, hide processing, making of bone artifacts, etc. Small amount of handmade pottery appeared in period 2. A copper ring and a bead and also a copper ingot were found. But period 1 and 2 are considered as Neolithic. The fully fledged Chalcolithic period is period 3. In period 2, one of the most important discovery was a male head which was made of unbaked clay. Along with it, many grinding stones, ivory tools, and red ochre powder, which is locally known as geru, found. Period 3 was very important for us to understand here. This period started around 4250 BCE, and this period saw a large-scale industrialization. In this period, wheel-made pottery were introduced, which marked the innovation and refinement in pottery techniques. A pottery manufacturing area was unearthed by the end of period 2. Potter's wheel for the first time was introduced around 5000 BCE in West Asia, and after 1000 years it came to Balochistan. The base of 3 ovens were exposed on the top of a pottery debris of 6 meters. Very ornaments like necklaces and bracelets were made out of steatite. Beads included agate, lapis, and other semi-precious stones. Terracotta and shell craft also increased significantly in this period. Stone microdrills must have been used to make engravings on the shell. There were few terracotta humped bull. Terracotta crucibles with traces of copper suggested the beginning of copper metallurgy in period 3 of Mehargarh. Period 3 also had a storage complex which was divided into smaller compartments like those of earlier phase. A large cemetery consisting of 99 burial was unearthed. An important element that was used in the burial is cigar-shaped bricks. The head of some of the skeleton was placed on bricks. There is only one example of a collective burial in entire Mehargarh in which two wheel-made painted pots were put as grave goods. Otherwise, there are not a single incident except it where pottery placed as grave goods. So before going any further, let us conclude the development of agriculture and pastoralism in these three periods so that we can compare these side by side. The most important significance of period 1, 2 and 3 is that they provide earliest and most comprehensive evidence of subsistence activities, revealing transition from hunting gathering to food producing and from food gathering to heavy reliance on domestication and agriculture. The most important crop was barley, and most predominant variety of barley was 6-row naked barley. There were some other varieties like hulled 6-row barley, wild, transitional and domesticated variety of barley have been found at the same place. It suggests that North Baluchistan fell within the natural habitat zone of barley and it was a part of large nuclear area of barley domestication. Wheat was other important crop. Bear and dates were also found in period 1 and 2, but in period 2 the discovery of cotton seeds was very important. They were found in a charred form inside a hearth. They show that cotton grew naturally in this habitat and people started to domesticate cotton. Striking change in agriculture pattern can be seen in period 3 when wheat became the most important crop and barley loses its value. Oats for the first time were discovered from the remains of period 3. They were growing crops in this early period of time, while if we understand the geography of this area, we can understand how they were growing these crops and what were the requirements to grow the crops. This area has a lot of mountains and the climate is extreme. The higher valleys are often covered with snow for up to 2 months in a year. Rainfall does not exceed 10 cm per annum and most of it in winters. But the valleys are very prosperous and major trade routes connecting Indus Valley with Central Asia. According to archaeologists, the variety of barley and wheat they were growing requires a heavy irrigation, so they can only do so by making small dams. Period 1 was dominated by bones of wild animals like deer, black buck, goat, etc. But at the end of period 1, there was an increase in the domesticated bones and a decrease in the wild bones. In period 2, there was significant increase in domestic bones and a decrease of wild bones. But when we go from period 2 to period 3, there was again an increase of wild bones, which shows that people were again going toward hunting and gathering. J.R. Lucas studied the dental remains of skeletons at Mehargarh. He concluded that in early periods, period 1 and 2, they have very low rate of dental cavities, probably due to high fluoride levels of drinking water available there. After period 3, their dental health started to decline. That is probably because they started to eat more refined foods. This is a basic overview of first 3 periods in terms of domestication and agriculture. So now let's move to period 4. Period 4 shows further expansion of settlement. The agriculture was going to be more and more advanced in this period, and the pottery was becoming more and more decorated and better. Large structures have been found in which rooms were separated by walls and doors with wooden lintels. A red ware decorated with people leaves also appeared is this time. Pottery had started to become more and more complex, and such type of pottery also started to appear in other part of Balochistan, suggesting interaction among these sites. In period 5, a large pottery kiln was found, and it was one of the most significant discoveries. This female figurine was the first example of an elaborate mother goddess figurine that were later became one of the most significant aspects of Harappan civilization and also of some early Harappan cultures. Period 6 and 7, they show some early Harappan artifacts including Portdesian style vessels, fragments of triangular terracotta cakes, very long flint blades. These type of artifacts suggested that people of Mehargarh must have links or trade relation with Indus Valley by the end of period 7. Period 7 was the last period of Mehargarh. So let's discuss about the significance of Mehargarh. The first and the most important thing is the craft production and large storage faculties of grains. They also suggested a social differentiation in which rich and powerful could claim a large share of surplus. The development of crafts and workshop and kiln, as seen in the period 3, marked further stages of progress of division of labor in society. A very important study which shows that sedentary life and industries were harmful to peoples even in Neolithic period can be seen by study of skeletons found in Mehargarh. This study shows that life expectancy declined due to industrialization from 31 years to 24 years. The death rate rose from 33 to 42 per thousand, and child mortality rate increased from 360 to 452 per thousand. All these factors led to pressure on females to produce more children, and due to this, female fertility rate climbed up to 5.8 from 4.5. These statistics shows the harmful effect of Neolithic revolution, which is similar to what happens to workers' health after the coming of factory system in modern times. So now let's discuss about decline of this civilization and wrap up our video. Around 3800 BCE, the settlement started to decay, but archaeologists located a large number of sites in the same region with new kind of pottery that has been growing. So in this video, we have discussed a fascinating story of nearly 4000 years of continuous occupation, cultural continuity, and stories of domestication, which tells us how people started to domesticate plants and animals, which led to sedentary life, which in turn proved to have major progress in the development of modern world. So that was for today. If you want to study Indian history and historiography, I am a PhD scholar that is continuously working toward research in Indian history.